Everybody, Debbie Hoyt here with another weekly installment of the School Psychologist vlog. Um, Cloudy day outside, so you get to see a different part of my office, so the lighting doesn't make me like half dark, half bright. So I wanted to talk a little bit because sometimes I hear with anxiety people trying to use the um, tough approach. And there's definitely a difference between the tough approach and the tough love approach. And the reason why being is think about habits and think about our brains. Um, Sometimes when we have behaviors that happen, they happen because we've basically created pathways in our brain um, based on previous experiences, and this is how we reacted. And so when new information comes in, we do the same things over and over again. So that's a well-worn path. So for example, I have a quick little visual here for you. So I talked last week about the information, the amygdala, that kind of area of the brain that's the kind of the size of an almond. That is really responsible for automatic behaviors that occur. That's when our pupils dilate. That's when oxygen goes to the big muscle groups. Some of the smaller, non essential areas don't stop working. This is automatic. So when we have the hippocampus that comes in, information comes in, and this really regulates our memory, our emotions. So it may be based on a previous event. Um, Something happens, the information comes in, and we automatically react to it. And that's what happens. And then this sends the information down through the spine and to every place else. So we have a similar event that happens again. Again, the information comes in, the amygdala gets triggered, the information goes down. And that keeps happening over time again and again and again. If anybody ever hikes, you go out into the woods. I am the person who wants the well-worn path. I want to know exactly where I'm going. I want a nice wide path that I can see that's well marked and where I'm going because I don't want to get lost. And this is what I know. This is what I can do. The brain works the same way. When you have information that comes in and you continually react the same way, it doesn't matter why, your brain and your body gets the same feeling from that amygdala. And so it's an automatic thing that happens again, and you've got a well-worn path in that brain that goes from the amygdala to from the hippocampus to the amygdala and down through the body. Now you can see one of our weak areas is this prefrontal cortex, and the prefrontal cortex is responsible for our thinking, and this is where we use logic. This area of the brain, I will warn parents, is not really developed until we're about 25, 27 years old. Students who are watching this, that doesn't mean that this is an excuse. You can still definitely use your prefrontal cortex. But a lot of times when we have children, pre-adolescents, adolescents, we have to help them access this prefrontal cortex because then the information comes in and maybe we feel something, we sense something, or we know it. If you've ever been in a car accident, or you drive in the snow and you slid, you're like, okay, we live in New Hampshire. I have to drive in the snow again. This is what I'm going to do to prepare myself and get ready. That's when you're using the prefrontal cortex. You're not letting the amygdala take over and saying, you can't drive. Sorry, it might snow today. So this is where we really have to help. And as you can see, this is a weak area going from the hippocampus over here to this prefrontal cortex. That's weak, and that's really hard to do. Luckily, we have something in our brain called neuroplasticity that we can form new pathways. It's not easy. If you've ever tried to change a habit, it is hard and it is difficult. This is the same thing. Pretty much in our brain, we react to a certain feeling, not particularly event, a certain feeling, and then the body goes into fight, flight, or fawn mode. So we have to start to access this area of our brain. And how do we do that for students? And I think, like we said last week, one is expecting worry to happen. It is going to happen. We're going to have it. To what to do when that worry does show up. How are you going to overcome? How are you going to work through? How are you going to access your resources? And we've been talking a lot about that how. Um, there are certain coping strategies, and I want to talk to you and give you a little homework assignment for adults as well. What happens sometimes when we are in a constant state of stress and worry and anxiety, our body releases this hormone called cortisol. And cortisol is very beneficial when it's needed, but we don't always need it. When I'm sitting in this room, I don't need to do any heavy lifting, I don't need to fight anything. Cortisol is not necessary right now. But cortisol stays in our body and it does not leave, and it's associated with weight gain, it's associated with cardiovascular issues, it's associated with a lot of physical ailments that people struggle with, that can be related back to stress and worry and anxiety. One of the best ways to get rid of cortisol is exercise, and I'm not talking about heavy duty running miles or anything like that. Sometimes just taking a quick 10-minute walk can be helpful. Um, any type of exercise that you feel that you can do, marching in place can sometimes work for little kids who will do that, or wall push-ups or table push-ups. Sometimes doing things fun as a family, hiking, going on the corn mazes or any of those spooky worlds, haunted houses, that are out in the woods that you're doing a bit of walking. Those are all great activities. So it doesn't have to mean heavy duty exercise. Um, so your homework this week, which was given to me when I attended a workshop on play therapy, working with traumatized students. We as adults are always busy. We're working, we come home, take care of our families, we at some point go to sleep, wake up and do it all over again. And we as adults have gotten a way of playing. And I'm not talking about playing with your kids. I'm talking about that activity that you love to do that you never have time to do. So for your homework for the next week, and students, you can do this too, I want you to take 5 minutes for 3 days. Everybody can find 5 minutes over 3 days to find out, to think about what is it that I love doing that I don't do. What is it that I found really enjoyable and fulfilling that I don't do because I'm so busy taking care of all these other things? I want you to do that activity for 5 minutes 3 times the next week, at least. And take notice about how you're starting to feel. Take note about how internally you're feeling. Think about your thoughts. This doesn't have to be meditation. I know lots of people do meditation and find that enjoyable. I can meditate for about 3 minutes. Otherwise, I'm thinking of everything I have to do or I'm falling asleep. But, if you really enjoy meditating, you can meditate for 2 to 5 minutes and it still is effective. Maybe you like to go for a walk for 5 minutes by yourself. Maybe you like to draw or knit or photography. This morning when I came in, there was this beautiful rainbow, and unfortunately, I love to take pictures, but I only had my cell phone with me. But I was out there like for a few minutes before work taking these pictures, and it felt really good. So think about for yourself, what is it that you really enjoy do that you never have time to do, and find 5 minutes to do that. Waking up 5 minutes early to have your coffee or your tea alone in quiet silence, or when everybody goes to bed, taking 5 minutes to read that book. Everybody can find 5 minutes in the day, so I challenge you to do that and take a look at how you feel and set that example for your students that you are taking that 5 minutes to yourself. Believe me, they will understand, and hopefully that is a skill that you students too can maybe hold yourselves accountable and help hold your parents accountable too as well. So enjoy your week. Thank you for the feedback both from the students and from the parents, and definitely see me, call me, email me if you do have any questions that you'd like to see on this vlog. Next week we'll talk a little bit more about how to talk to your anxiety. So look forward to that. Have a great week, everybody.